Good evening. So guess where we are again. I just wanted to point something out about this situation we have with the solar eclipse, okay? With the sun obviously radiating absolute light from directly behind the moon. Let's just throw everything away for a second, okay? You've just fallen off of a calendar. You've just arrived here on this planet. And somebody grabs you by the arm, says, come, quick, come and look at this. And they present you with a solar eclipse. That you just so happen to wake up at the very same time as the moon is just crossing in front of the sun. And it blocks the sun out. Now if somebody asked you a question, and the question was, where is the sun right now? What would you say? You'd probably say, well, it's directly behind the moon. And then somebody could say, and what is casting the moon's shadow? What is it that is casting the moon's shadow? Where do the photons come from? Who would say, I see the sun is directly behind the moon, but I think it's taking 8 minutes and 20 seconds for something to come from the sun and strike the moon, okay? Guys, listen, there is this this thing where people say, like the moon landings. Saw Sci-Fi Man Dan today, did I say sci-fi? I meant Sci-Man Dan. He's talking about the moon landings. What we have to realise is there's no way out of this. Okay, there's no way out. It's beyond me how anybody is finding this gap, this delay, right? Because it is non-existent. This is a fact. It does not matter that we're using a flashlight here in the shed, or we could go out tomorrow and do it with the sun, if it comes out. Because if you are seeing a light source, right, you have to listen to this because it makes an awful lot of sense, right? If you are seeing a light source, it doesn't matter where it is, you're seeing that light source, right, exactly where it is. And if it turned off, you would see it turn off. There is no delay in any light reaching anywhere else as it radiates from a light source, right? You cannot separate this light source from the light that it radiates. You cannot separate the two. Whenever this goes out, it doesn't matter how far the light is radiating from whatever object you're holding at the time. As soon as the source goes out, the light goes out with it at absolute speed. It disappears. It's extremely obvious, right? This whole thing, it's unbelievable. It really is. Talking to Simon Dan today, he dropped a question saying, what test or what experiment would you like to show the people who say, no, you haven't landed on the moon, like me? So what kind of test or anything would you like to show us to prove that you went to the moon? You cannot prove that you went to the moon. You cannot prove that you went to the moon. When people say, prove that we didn't go. 1969, 1972, every 6 months roughly, give or take. 11 to, 17? But Apollo 10, the tricky one, that descended from 70 miles, traveling at 3,600 miles per hour, or 3836. So 3,600 miles an hour, at an altitude of 70 miles above the moon, orbiting, and it slowed down to 2,300 miles per hour. So that's 1,300 miles per hour braking, And it dropped from 70 miles to 9 miles from the moon. And still orbiting at 2,300 miles per hour. And they took photographs. So they were traveling at an altitude of 5,000 feet higher than the highest flight altitude that passenger planes fly at, and that's 42,000 feet. You rarely cruise it. It's usually 35, 36, 37. 42 is the maximum. Apollo 10 was screaming around the moon, 2,300 miles per hour, right? That's 4 times the speed of your average passenger jet, and it's 5,000 feet higher up. 1969, March 1969, if I'm not mistaken. March or May? I think it might be May. May, June, yeah. 2 months is plenty for Apollo 10 to come back down with the photographs, get them developed, and up shoots Neil, Buzz, and Michael Collins, right? So where were we? So 4 times the speed, right, orbiting the moon, than a passenger plane flies at, okay? 2,300 miles an hour. That's 4 times the speed of a passenger plane at 575, 600. It's 5,000 feet higher up, and it's 1969, and they took photographs of the moon that were then used for Neil to land 2 months later. So this slowing down and dropping to 9 miles, thrust, and I always say, the evidence, you want proof that you didn't go, there's your proof, just that one. There is no explanation. Thrust in a freaking vacuum and slowing the Apollo 10 down. Let's go. Up they go. Never done it before. Descending in 1/6 Earth's gravity in a complete vacuum. Leaving a guy up there on his own to orbit. That it's never been done before. The absurdities that are getting passed around, it's unbelievable. Back to the evidence-based stuff. That's what we need, see? Now, here's your evidence. Right here, right? It doesn't matter what light source you're using or how far away it is or any of that stuff. If you can see a light source, it doesn't matter where it's at, right? You are seeing it exactly where it is in real time. There is no light delay from any light source. You either see it or you don't. Now, we could be outside and we could do this with the sun, and it's going to be exactly the same because we're within range of it. I mean, this flashlight looks like the sun. It would be no different if we went out there tomorrow and did it with the sun. We did it the other day. It looks exactly the same. If you're seeing a light source in the night sky or during the day, it is there. And this is what happens. It's absolute light. This was the sun. There is no 8 minutes and 20 seconds. It isn't logical. It is not logical, okay? For people, if this were the moon, for people to be seeing the photons that have travelled from the sun and are striking the moon, right, which then puts people in the sweet spot shadow down there, why are people seeing the photons that have been travelling for 8 minutes and 20 seconds from the sun? They're striking the moon and people are in the shadow, right? So why are people in the shadow of the photons that have been travelling for 8 minutes and 20 seconds, as well as they are seeing the sun's corona around the moon? So they're seeing the light source that radiated those photons 8 minutes and 20 seconds earlier as well as seeing the photons that have already travelled 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Why are people seeing both things at the same time? It's borderline. God, it's saying it's a bit strong. We wouldn't want to offend people. People are only just getting used to me saying lack of common sense. Now we're going to start saying people are insane. No, we're not going to say that. The evidence, guys. If this were about the evidence, it's right here. There is no delay. There is no delay. It's ridiculous. It's just borderline, isn't it? So, this stuff isn't going anywhere. It's the same as the pyramids and the Egyptians. It's logistically impossible. So why do people hang on to this stuff? Why? 25,000 Egyptians. We're already going to talk about the 2.3 million 2.5 ton stones. 25,000 Egyptians. If we divide 2,300,000 by 25, we get the number 92. That means each Egyptian was liable for 92 2.5 ton stones. It's ridiculous, considering there isn't an explanation for how even one single stone was quarried out of anywhere with copper handles. We know it wasn't the Egyptians. We know it wasn't the Egyptians, don't we, folks, eh? It's a bit silly, isn't it? All right, look, I'm going to call it there. Yeah. I think it's great. We've got a storm coming. It's supposed to be a humdinger, so if it gets really interesting, I might record it, because I like a good storm. All right, buenas noches. Good talking to you, Sci-Fi Man Dan. All right, we must catch up and have a cyber coffee sometime. I mean, Sci Man Dan. All right, guys, ladies.